every so often. So you might just see us attending a local event near you. Now with Fortnite being so popular, I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm playing in open invitationals.
Is that right?
Oh, I'll be at every event because this game is amazing.
Is Chris going to be there?
My boy.
Is he?
My boy Chris Tame Impulse. My little ginger man. Yes, he will.
All right, guys. Well, we have a game here. Look, this is going to be loser round 5, Vikkstar and Tinny. The guys who just knocked out Myth and Hamlins, who's already down.
And Tinny can't even handle the pressure, apparently. He's already down, man. Jeez.
Well, that is so unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, if Tinny doesn't get rescued, which looks like Vikkstar struggling a little bit to get into where he's at. Typical Gamer and Sword Thief. Now, Typical Gamer, Sword Thief. They came second place in our last tournament. They're working their way through the loser bracket, and we could potentially see them once again. Their total earnings, $17,000 overall between the two of them.
And Typical absolutely struggling just now to build into the back of that with one of those pop rocks. I want everyone at home to know there is nothing more frustrating than not being able to get in the back of a semi-truck trailer because you just jumped too high. Talking about all the kids with 39-inch verticals in 7th grade. I had a 4. I basically just jumped off the ground tall enough for my heels not to be there, so that's exciting.
4-inch vertical, though. It
was 14.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I'd like to see it, actually. This is why you're a gamer, right?
Got no hops.
Typical Gamer on your top screen there, just hanging out in Dusty Divot. But where's Sword Thief? Sword Thief is just, looks like he's just being a nuisance on the enemy team there.
He's already good. Well, I want to point out that we're obviously halfway into the game, and that Typical Gamer and Thief both already have scars. One of them happening to be a legendary scar, so yeah, that's happening. And I mean, for Vikkstar and Tinny, right, they do have some nice, semi-autos. They have a blue and a green, but like generally, when it comes into the scar, without question, the best gun in the game. The fact that you have both of them, plus probably a kill advantage, almost nearly. So I believe Vikkstar and Tinny actually had the advantage in their favor. Thankfully, Tinny did not die in that spot, or we'd definitely be looking at definitely a more grim spot for that squad to make it through. But hey, they took down TSM for a reason. They made it as far as they have. Got to give them some credit. This team, they're incredibly solid when it comes down to a lot of these games. And also one thing that kind of relates me back to, and what I think probably happened in that game with Vikkstar and Tinny and TSM, both of those teams from last week, Taylor, that we really took note of quite a bit was the Salty Springs pushes that, of course, TSM likes to make. Vikkstar and Tinny, where are their preferred landing spots? Just out toward the side. So I wonder maybe if TSM happened to die early pretty often in Salty Springs, which gave them a big disadvantage. And then probably in that spot, right, we want to cater the factor of Vikkstar and Tinny playing just outside, kind of toward the outskirts. They probably escaped with those kills. So I'd imagine the reason why TSM probably lost was due to early exits, basically.
Vikkstar and Tinny, like we said, this is that dark horse team. They made it through the last tournament and placed considerably well. I want to say they got 3rd place last tournament. I need to check the standings to see, but I do believe they got 3rd place because I know 4th place was FaZe. 2nd was Typical Gamer and Sword Thief, and then, of course, 1st was TSM. But Vikkstar and Tinny has been a team that's been surprising us. They played throughout our tournaments, but we've never seen anything special from them. And now, all of a sudden, in the past 2 tournaments, we're seeing this crazy gameplay coming from them. And, in fact, right now, they're both sitting, or collectively, sitting at 9 kills. Still tied up, though, with Typical Gamer and Sword Thief, who's been at least one of the most consistent teams throughout our tournaments. It used to be Noah, J, and Avery, but now we're seeing Typical Gamer and Sword Thief consistently finish at the top of these brackets.
Let's talk about the amount of explodes we've got from both teams, though. We've got a legendary, we've got a blue up there for Vikkstar. TG also rocking the rockets here. I mean, it's just such an advantage, especially in the latter part of the game, for you to just be able to pull that out and get those one-taps, right? People don't think that you're going to engage and pull a rocket launcher out of your back pocket, and then all of a sudden you just get Cody exploding.
Speaking of which.
So that's exactly what I'm talking about. Still has the jetpack, absolutely a monster with it, and drops, was that 2 or 3? He said good night. He said night-night. Tucked him in with a shopping cart, which, by the way, is a lot rougher than a blanket.
Is that right?
Yeah. You slept in one overnight.
Yep, sure. A lot of it's rough out here.
Typical Gamer is one of those players that just so happens to love the jetpack, and any chance that he gets to use it, he will in fact utilize it. So he's going to be one of those who is in fact going to miss it.
He just came out of nowhere.
But just look at how he utilizes it, just showing the potential the jetpack has in the hands of a pro player. No reason to build, mind you, just go ahead and just jetpack above the enemy team, mowing down the players, and that puts him now at a collective total of 13.
Wow. 15
from
your boy Typical and Thief.
Carry the 3.
We have an ongoing joke with counting that if you've tuned into the broadcast, mostly because the scores change in literally a matter of looking me in the eyes for a millisecond to looking back at the game. But he's got a campfire in the back pocket, one of my favorite tools in the game. Let's just talk about items in general and how much fun they are in this game. You've got jump pads, campfires, traps. Now you have the bounce traps, which can be utilized in unison here with an actual trap. We've seen a lot of crazy plays out of this. Vikkstar and Tinny, though, with a total of 22 engagements left in this game, only down by 5 total kills. I want to see him. I want to see him do it. I mean, look at Vikkstar's face. This man is serious today. He's chopping trees down here, full blown. You know, he's got the full lumberjack outfit on. He's ready to roll.
He is. He absolutely is. And of course, speaking of outfits, right? Looks like Tinny, right? He just made it out of jail. He's feeling pretty good about himself. He's just kind of motivating his way through potentially what could be a very difficult matchup right now. But kind of getting back on the topic of equipment, etc. I got literally right as I start to talk about it, the directional jump pad. I'm very curious. I actually haven't played the game since this has been introduced, and I desperately want to get my hands on it. It looks to be a facet that you can use in a multitude of different ways, right? When you're trying to get away from the storm, even when you're in build battles and whatnot, to try to even get someone off of a ramp or anything like that. I think it's going to have a multitude of different uses, and I got to say, at least based off how I've seen it so far in this game, I think this is probably going to be one of my more favorite things to have in my equipment slot.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
definitely.
I do see a lot of uses, like I said, specifically just to boost you through, almost like a impulse grenade. Of course, it comes in stacks of 3s, which helps out tremendously, right? Because impulses it comes out in stacks of 3 as well. The overall usability in terms of using it against your opponent still to be seen, but at least when it comes to helping yourself and your team, helps out quite a bit.
I want to point out that when it comes to impulse grenades, it takes a certain person to utilize those. We've all had that moment where it's like, okay, the game is on the line. There is a potato player in front of me, and here's my opportunity to make a Twitter video to get hundreds of thousands of retweets and likes. And here comes my impulse grenade, and I actually went the opposite way and just fell off a mountain.
It's so relatable.
So I think when it comes down to directional bounce pads and whatnot, it's going to be so much easier to have the opportunity to make these plays happen because you don't have to rely on human error. I think it's fair to say. So that's why I think it's going to be one of my more lenient items to grab toward, is because of the friendly user ability that it comes with.
I mean, we literally just made our last score adjustment here at about 28. Only up by 5 kills at this point. Vikkstar and Tinny with no more adjustments. Now they're up by 10 kills. Typical and Thief murdering everything that's in their way. They find a nice little vending machine there. Might grab a soda before they continue on this massacre. And, he's just smiling. He's got the gunners on. You're taking it serious when you're wearing the glasses for the event. This guy, man, absolute beast. Thief, absolute beast as well. 11 kills and 10 kills. And that sub count growing in the bottom left of his little webcam box every second.
Well, and rightly so. He's one of the best players as well as a great entertainer, too, if you watch his streams. But watching these guys play it out, typical gamer, like you said, and Sword Thief just taking off with the score. Vikkstar and Tinny, though, not finding any engagements, unfortunately, and that just comes down to what we talk about with the RNG. Going into game 2, though, you got to get a hold of yourselves. Vikkstar and Tinny, you need to start picking up some kills, because if you don't, going down 10 kills down, it's a huge deficit and hard to take over.
And I want to point out, right, we talk about the typical landing spots when you really look at Vikkstar and Tinny's play. Essentially what they do is they play passive off the start, and they kind of slowly but surely generate themselves more into the fight. Heading into this next game, if we know anything about typical gamer and Thief, what they love to do is when they have the advantage is to hang with the enemy. They're going to be on your heels every single time. So it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever heading into this next match, if at least off the break or even toward the beginning of the match, if we see typical gamer and Thief not even by a second always be near their enemy, trying to grab their loot, trying to grab any med kits they might drop on the ground for each other. Wow. Anything. Thief, that's his name for a reason. He wants to take all of your kills. He wants to take all of your equipment, etc., etc. These guys are absolutely cutthroat when they have the lead, and they're probably one of the hardest teams to try to make a comeback on when they have the lead as well. So this is normally going to be a very difficult match for most teams in general, but when you look at a team like Typical Gamer and Thief, who have made it to 2 different grand finals, winning 1 out of the 2 of those, plus how clutch they are and how difficult they are in a setting where they have the advantage, this is looking very scary for Vikkstar and Tinny, and all these kills kind of toward the end are going to make things so much easier and so much better for them. So to me, I think this is going to be a huge prospect for them as Vikkstar takes a look at the sky and just happens to see an entirety play there from Typical Gamer, who's, I think, reached his max limit at the top of the map.
And of course, we were talking about this earlier in the day. You're starting to see this sky-based jetpack combo, but really what you're looking for in this tournament from these players is they're trying to figure out where those shots are coming from so they can isolate those kills. It's not about trying to outlast, get the VR, BR. All you're trying to do is you're trying to make your way in there to see where those shots are coming from, get down there and start dropping folks. And of course, Vikkstar doing the exact same thing. With 2 players left, they need these kills. They've got a total of 16 to, what do we have over here on Typical and Thief side? It's looking like 24. So it's not out of reach for Vic and Tinny, especially if they close these last 2 kills out for this next game. 4, 5, 6, 1 squad, 2 squad lead. Sure, you start to get 7, 8, 9, 10. Starts to get a little bit more rough. And of course, Typical though with a nice 2-piece to close it out. 22 total kills.
And mind you,
oh
he's going to finish at what? 14 kills. That's a solid showing. Plus 10 kills down. For Sword Thief, a total of 24 kills between the two. Solid playing, solid showing. I'm curious to see where their landing spot is. Of course, we know where Vikkstar and Tinny typically go, but where is a typical gamer and Sword? What do they prefer? No,
it's usually salty.
Salty,
but like I said, once they had the lead, which happens to be after most of these games, they're joining up with the enemy. So to me, I think what we're going to see at Vikkstar and Tinny is based off of the lead. It's not anything crazy, right? It's not anything absurd. It's 2 squads in this situation. I think what we're going to see at Vikkstar and Tinny is they're going to go just toward the outskirts of salty, maybe even on the outskirts of something like a retail, maybe a shifty, something that's not too too high priority, but something that's a little bit. It's going to set you up pretty much for the later parts of the game. But I think when it comes down to a typical gamer and thief, I think they're going to join up with the enemy 100%, especially if they go just outside of Salty Springs, because that's exactly where thief and typical like to go in general. So
what if we just saw Quad Junction?
I would love that.
You know what I mean?
Actually, we have seen that before in the past. Believe it or not, we have seen that. Seriously, we
saw,
have.
On the Saturday tournament, we saw 4 people go to soccer field back to back.